So today we are going to learn three important concepts like how we can handle alerts or pop-up windows. And sometimes when you're automating your test case, you may see something called like alert windows or pop-up windows. So we'll see how we can handle them. And after that, how we can switch between multiple frames. So sometimes in your web page contains a kind of forms or frames. And if there are any elements which are present inside the frame, so we cannot directly interact with them. So first we need to switch to that particular frame or form, and then we will able to interact with those elements. And that we are going to see. And one more topic is how we can work with the multiple browser windows. Okay, so these are three important topics which we are going to learn today. Now let us start with the how to handle alerts, and which is also called as a pop-ups. Anything is fine. Pop-ups or alerts. Again, we have different type of alerts. We have a different type of pop-ups. We can call it as alert or pop-up. Anything is fine. So we have a different type of alerts. So now we'll see how we can handle the different type of alerts. Now let me open an application. Okay, so here this is my application. So inside this you can see three different type of alert windows. So which is basically called as a JavaScript alert, or we can call it as a pop-up. So when you click on this, the first button, which is giving some JavaScript alert. So as soon as you see this Java alert, so until unless we close this JavaScript alert, or until unless we close this alert, we cannot perform any other action. So we have to close it, and then we can perform the other action. Similarly, if I just look at the second one, so now this time we have some two buttons are there, but previously we have only one button. There is some text is displayed and there is only one button. But in the second one, so which is having some text, and along with the OK button, we also have a cancel button. Now, if I just look at the third one, so which contains of some input box, and then OK button and cancel button. So these are the three different type of alert boxes. So let me just take the last one, because which contains all three elements, OK, cancel, as well as the input box. And first two things you guys can try it as part of assignment. Now I'll show you the third one. So how to handle this alert window. So normally what happens is when you click on this one, so this button is a web element. Okay, button is a web element. So when you perform click action on this, which will open this alert window. So normally we cannot identify anything on this alert window, because alert is not a web element. Alert is not a web element. It is a special type of object, okay, which is not a web element. So we cannot inspect anything on this alert window. Even if you just right click here, you will not get any inspect option. So you cannot get any attributes of this OK button or cancel button or input box or text. So you will not get anything from this alert window. So we need to handle this in different way, and for that Webdriver is provided various types of functions. Now we'll see how we can handle this alert window. So especially in this current window and this current alert window, what we can do is, let me just capture the text which is displayed on the alert window. That's the first thing I will do. Second thing is, I want to pass some value into the input box here. I want to enter some text into the input box. Suppose let's say welcome. And after that, I can close this alert window either by using OK button or by using cancel button. But we cannot directly perform the click action on these elements. So we have to use a different type of functions. So when I click on this OK, then what happens? So whatever message I have given in the text box or input box, the same message is got displayed here, right? Suppose when I say Selenium, right? So when I click on this OK, so same text is displayed. And suppose I say welcome, and when I click on the cancel, nothing is displayed, null is displayed. So now currently this alert window contains a small text and then input box and OK and cancel button. Now let us see how we can perform different type of operations on this alert window, and what are the different commands are available to handle this alert window. So the first fundamental thing is, alert window is not a web element, so that we cannot identify any elements on the alert window. Okay, that's a fundamental point you need to remember. Now let's go back to the PyChamp and let's start creating the script. First of all, let me create a new directory, day 18. So inside this, I'm creating a new Python file, alerts, and take this Python file. Okay, so now once you created your Python file, so as usual, first I'll import all required packages, and then I create a service object and pass the service object inside the Chrome driver. Okay, fine. So after that, let's start launching our application. So I say driver.get, right? So here I'll pass the URL of application and specify that. So as soon as you pass the application URL, so I'll try to maximize the page. I say driver.maximize underscore window. Now, so if you want to get the alert window, what we should do, we have to click on this button. So then you will get the alert window like this. Now inspect this element. So this is a web element. It is just a button. Okay, so this is a web element. And for this web element, we can get the XPath. You can just go to selector hub and take this XPath, and then driver dot find element by dot I say XPath, specify the XPath. Now you can just look at here, what is the normalized space? So it is exactly equal to text method. It is exactly equal to text method because the button having some inner text here. You can just look at here, right? So this is the value I'm getting here. So normalize hyphen space, which is exactly equal to text method, but the difference is in the text method, we have to give the exact value without having any spaces. The value as it is, we have to pass. But a normalized space, if there are any additional spaces, which will ignore it. That's the only difference. Okay. So this is the next path, and which is capture that element. I'm just performing the click action dot click. So this particular command opens the alert window, right? So this will open the alert window. Opens alert window. So once you open the alert window, so I just want to show you that alert window. For that, I'm just waiting for some time. I say t time dot sleep and just put 5 seconds so that we will see the alert window. Otherwise, it will go very faster. Now, so as soon as you got this alert window like this, so first operation is I want to capture the text message which is displayed here. And the second action is I want to pass some value into the input box. Now the third action is I want to close this alert window by using OK button or by using cancel button. So these are the multiple actions I want to perform. So, but we cannot identify any element here, but how we can handle them. So as soon as you open the alert window, right, our driver is still focused on your browser itself. So this alert window is not a web element, so we cannot directly go here. So for that, Webdriver is provided one command called switch command. What is that? We have to access like this: driver dot switch to switch underscore to driver dot switch to dot alert, driver dot switch underscore to dot alert. So what this command will do is this particular command will switch to this particular alert window, right? Now this alert window we can also capture into a variable. So we can just create one variable here. I'll name it as a alert window. So now what this command will do, this particular command will switch to that particular alert window, whichever is currently open, and that alert window will be captured into this variable. Now what is this variable? This is a kind of an object which is representing the whole alert window. Okay, the alert window will be represented by this variable. So who is getting that alert window? Driver dot switch to dot alert command. Now from this alert window, I want to capture the text which is displayed here. So to capture the text from this alert window dot, you can simply say text. So this will give you the text which is present inside the alert window. This is the first thing. Second action. So I want to pass some value into this input box. So if it is a normal web element, we will identify that element and we use send keys method, right? But here, how we can pass that value? So without identifying. So here we no need to identify this element. What we can directly do is we can get this alert window directly, and a dot send keys method we can directly use. So here I'm passing welcome. So now what happens is whatever value we provided in the send keys method, it will directly go to the input box, which is already available in the alert window. So here we no need to identify this element because we alert window we already identified. So we already captured that alert window. So as soon as you send key is used on the alert window, this message will directly go to the input box. This is one thing. And now what's the next action? I want to close this alert window by using OK button or by using cancel button. So again, here we have two methods are there. One is if you want to close this alert window by using OK button, we have accept command is there. Similarly, if you want to close my alert window by using cancel button, so then we have a dismiss method. So we can use one of them. So I am trying to close this alert window by using OK button. So for that, what you will do is take this alert window dot accept. That's it. So what this command will do, this will close the alert window by using OK button, but we cannot identify this OK button. So directly accept method will invoke and it will perform the click action on the alert window, click action on the OK button. So as soon as you click on the OK button, then what happens? Whatever value we have entered in this input box, the same thing will be displayed here. Okay. Now let us test all three things. We have done how many actions? First, we have captured the alert window by using this command. And the second thing is we capture the text value from the alert window we have printed. And then for the input box, we have passed this value. And then we close the alert window by using accept method, right? Now let us execute. Okay, now launching my browser, launching my application. Now you can see the alert window is open. So it cannot see the values entering here or not, okay, which will enter and it automatically closed. Now you can just look at here. You got the message, welcome. That means it is successfully enter the value in the input box. If I just go back and see, this is actual text message, which we displayed here. And also we pass this welcome message so that we have seen on the UI. And after that, it is closed by using accept button. Okay, suppose I want to close this alert window by using cancel button, then what happens? Suppose I pass something called welcome here. And this time I'm pressing cancel button. So here you will get null. That means it is not taken any value in the input box because we say cancel, right? So now let us see how to close the alert window by using cancel button. So for that, you can just use alert window dot. What is this alert window? Alert window is an object of this alert box, which we already captured. You can give any name to this. You can say my alert window or something like this. You can give any name. So this is just a variable we have used to store that alert window. Now alert window dot dismiss. So what this dismiss will do, this will basically close the alert window by using cancel button. And when I use the cancel button, obviously we will get null. Let's execute the same thing. So this time, instead of closing alert window by using OK button, now I'm using cancel button. Okay, now it is launched our application, then opens alert window. And here we cannot see whether the value is entering or not because this is not a web. Okay. Yeah, now we can see null means what? The alert window is successfully closed by using cancel button. So these are the only operations which we can do on the alert window. So what are the commands we learned here? Only one command, how to switch between the alerts. Driver dot switch to switch underscore to switch to dot alert. And what is another command? So this will get the alert window, right? So this will get you the alert window. We have to store that in a variable. Now, if you want to close this, or if you want to capture the text from it, we can use send keys method directly. If we want to close this alert window, accept method and dismiss method. So here text is there, accept method is there, and then dismiss method is there. So by using these three methods, we will able to handle the. So first of all, we need to capture this alert window in a variable. Okay, otherwise it is not possible. So now take this variable dot text and take this variable dot accept my alert dot dismiss. So by using this alert variable, we will able to access all these methods, not from the driver. So don't say driver dot text, driver dot accept. No. So alert window dot text, alert window dot accept, alert window dot dismiss. So these are the few methods which are available for handling the alerts or pop-ups. Any kind of pop-up or any kind of alert window we can handle by using these commands. Let me show you one more example. Let's say this is another application. So this is a Rediff login page, right? So here we need to enter username and password. but I don't want to enter any username and password. Directly, I'm clicking on the login button. Now we can see an alert window is open. So from this alert window, if you want, you can capture this message also. And after that, I want to close this alert window. So basically, I want to close this because unless you close this, you cannot perform any actions here. So let us assume this is a pop-up window or this is alert window. I want to close this. And also we have only one button is available here. So only one action, just we need to close like this. So let us see how we can do this. It's also very simple. Just copying another one. So let's 2. Okay. Okay. So here I'm just deleting all these things. All right. So let's open this URL. Okay. So maximize the page. So now I'm directly clicking on the login button, inspect this login. And input is there, type equal to submit, login is there. So let's go to select our hub and get the XPath for this. For the login button, I'm directly clicking on the login button. I say driver dot find element by dot XPath, specify the XPath dot click. So this is basically login button, right? So login button. As soon as you click on the login button, then what happens? Which opens the alert window. Now, as soon as I got this alert window, immediately I want to close it. So first we need to capture this alert window into a variable, and then we can use accept method to close this window. So how we can do that? Driver dot switch to dot alert. So this will give you alert window, my alert, and then I can use this variable. I say my alert dot. We have only one button, OK button, so we have to use accept here. So, but instead of writing 2 statements, suppose I want to write one action, I want to perform only one action. Just I want to close my alert window. In those cases, you no need this variable actually. So what you can do directly is you can directly switch to the alert, and then from here itself, you can directly use accept method. So driver dot switch dot alert window, alert command will switch to the particular alert window, and accept command will automatically close it. So here I'll put some wait time so that we will able to see the alert window for some time. And after that, I'm closing alert window. Right. So after that, I'm closing alert window. After that, I will also close my browser window. Driver dot close. Because I have only one single action I want to perform. So I am not storing this alert window of any other variable. But in the previous example, I have done multiple actions. So first of all, I capture the text value. Then I pass a value in the input box. So multiple actions I have. So every time, instead of writing this every time, I just store that in a variable. And then I refer that variable in multiple places. But in this case, now I don't want to perform any action, just want to close my alert window. So that's the reason I'm not taking any other variable and directly switching to the alert window, use accept method, which will automatically close the alert window. All right, so now execute. Okay, now alert is open, and then automatically it should close. And browser is also closed. Okay, so this is simple way we can handle the alert. So wherever you can see these kind of alerts, we can easily handle them by using these commands. So main command is this one. Interview questions, how to handle alerts or how to handle pop-ups. So we have to tell this command by using switch to dot alert command. And switch to dot alert command we can access through driver instance. But once you get the alert window in a variable, and rest of the commands we will able to access only through alert window object. Okay, so this is all about alerts and pop-ups. Sometimes in the real environment, you may see some different type of pop-up, or that is basically called as authentication pop-up. Authentication pop-up, I'll tell you that. This is another important entry question. Listen carefully. Authentication pop-up. So what is an authentication pop-up? Sometimes when you launch your application, right? So that will ask you your username and password. And suppose if you are working on one company, so you have your corporate ID, email ID, and password, right? So if you want to access any application inside your company environment, so you have to provide your valid corporate ID and password, and then only all your applications you will be able to access, right? So that's basically they have introduced some kind of security on their application. So you will be given some kind of corporate ID and password, and only with them you will be able to access the applications. In those cases, you will see authentication pop-ups as soon as you immediately open the application. Let me show you one example here. So what is an authentication pop-up? So these type of applications very difficult to get outside of the company. So only if you're working on some companies, specific companies, then only you will see these kind of websites. But otherwise outside, if you want to see these kind of website, you cannot see. You cannot get more examples also. But I could find some example here. One website, if I just look at here, see, as soon as you launch my application, immediately it is asking username and password. So until unless you provide the username and password, your page will not appear, first of all. So this is called as authenticated pop-up or authentication pop-up. So how to handle these kind of pop-up? Because it is not a web element. We cannot inspect username and password. We cannot directly enter the value. We cannot click on the sign in or cancel buttons. But how we can handle these kind of authentication pop-ups? So here, find elements will not work. So we cannot directly interact with them. So because alert is not a web element. And other thing is there are two input fields are there and two buttons also there, right? So how we can handle this? Only the way is we can just bypass it. How to bypass this window? So by providing the username and password, which is called as an injection, the concept of injection. So normally this is the URL we are sending, right? And then it will get this window. But sometimes when you pass this username and password along with this URL, if you pass this password and username and password along with this URL, then it will bypass this window and directly you will get an application. But how to specify this username and password inside this URL? How to inject your username and password inside this URL? So that is the most important concept. Now let me tell you how injection work here. So actual URL is this one. So this is the actual URL. When you open this URL directly, it will definitely ask username and password. So until unless you provide username and password, you cannot proceed further. So you can just look at here, right? Now, how to inject the username and password into the URL? So for that, we need to follow syntax. So what is the syntax? So it can be any web page, no problem, but we need to follow some syntax to inject the username and password into the URL. But how to pass it? So this is a URL, right? So let's copy this URL. Inside the URL, and before starting this, so here you can say this is the actual URL, right? This is actual application. So before starting this actual application, put one @ and after slashes, you can specify the username and password. So this application username and password is admin and admin. That's it. So this is a syntax actually. Okay, so this is a syntax. Now, if I write the syntax, so this is that is an example actually. This is a syntax. Let me write the syntax here. So you can have any kind of website. So this is the only syntax you have to follow. So http:// and here username of your application, password of your application, @ and your URL will be starting. So your web URL, actual URL will be starting from here. So this whole thing from here, this part should come here after @. Okay, so this is a example. And one more thing is here, this admin is not an application username and password. Okay, so it is not a just like it is not a normal login which is appeared in the web pages, right? So as soon as you open like e-commerce applications and everywhere, you will see the login page. So where you will provide the username and password. That is a normal web application. That's a normal web. Every element you will able to identify. You can pass a username, you can pass a password. That is not a comes under authenticated pop-ups. Remember this. This is a not part of your application actually. But before accessing the application, your browser is authenticated whether you are right person or not. So this is not part of your application. Okay, your companies will intentionally introduce this kind of authentication pop-ups before accessing your applications. Okay, so here even send keys method also won't work. Okay, because there are two elements are there. So even if you switch to this alert window where you want to pass the value, there are two input boxes are there. So even that also will not possible. So the only way is we have to inject the username and password into your URL. So that will bypass your authenticated pop-up window. Okay, that's the only way we can do that. Even send keys method will not work here. Okay, only we have to bypass by injecting the username and password into application. And you need to remember only one important point. So this is not a part of in our application. Okay, this is an additional window which is imposed on top of your application. So before you are trying to access your application, they are basically authenticating you whether you are right person or not. So for that reason, they are internally or intentionally imposing this particular window. Okay, so only these things will happen within your company environment, not outside. So you won't see this kind of authentication window on the production applications. Like if you go with any e-banking applications or e-commerce applications, you don't see these kind of windows, authentication windows. Okay, normally you will see the login windows. So that is again part of the web application. So you will able to identify those elements, you will able to pass a value, but here it won't work like that. Remember this. So now let me just do manually. So I'm entering admin and admin, right? So manual I'm doing. So when I say sign in, what happens is it is successfully login, and you can see congratulations. So this is a message, you will able to see that. So once you see this means what? You are successfully authenticated. You are successfully authenticated. Congratulations means what? You successfully authenticated. So same thing I'm doing through automation code. Now go back, and what I will do is let's create another example. So I'll name it as Authenticated Pop-Up. Okay, Authenticated Pop-Up. So let me just copy this code and specify that URL of application. So this is the actual URL, right? First, let me provide actual URL, then we'll see what will happen. Okay, this is actual real URL I'm passing, and then maximize the window. So we cannot handle that alert window because there are multiple things are there. So let me just launch my application and see this authenticated pop-up is on. So even if you switch to this alert window, when you switch command, you can pass only one value at a time. Only in the username is currently enabling. So whatever the text file you are passing, that will go into the username. But what about the password? So we cannot differentiate these two elements again on the alert window. We cannot say they are elements, but we can say objects. So user and password, there are two input boxes are there, so we cannot differentiate. So even switch to also won't work. Send keys we cannot do. The only way is we have to bypass this window. So how we can bypass through automation? So just we need to pass this particular URL instead of passing this URL. So instead of doing that, what you need to do is comment this real URL, and whatever the username and password we injected, just pass that URL directly here. Same application, but only thing is we are just passing username and password along with the URL. Then what happens? Which will not give you any alert window, and it will just bypass and it will directly go into the home page. And you will see congratulations message. Let me just execute now and see. Okay, now you can just carefully notice here. See, as soon as you open the URL, directly it went to the congratulations page. Congratulations. Same message we have seen earlier after successful login, right? Now this time also we have seen the same message here because it is directly bypassed that particular authenticated pop-up. So this kind of pop-ups, so you may see sometimes in your real-time applications. So in those cases, this is the way we need to inject your username and password into your URL, and then we will bypass it. Okay, so this is a one more important scenario, so please remember this. Most of the times in interview, people may ask this kind of question: how to handle authenticated windows, authenticated pop-ups. So we have to inject your username and password into the URL, and then we will bypass it. Okay, fine. So this is all about the alert window. So we have seen how to handle the different type of alerts or pop-ups. Authenticated pop-up is another type of special type of alert or pop-up. So where all these commands won't work. Okay, so only thing is we have to just bypass this window. Remember this. Now the next item. So next concept is how to handle the frames. So far we have seen how to handle alert and pop-ups. Now I'm talking about the frames or iframes. Frames or iframes. So what is basically frame means? What is basically iframe means? So in your normal web pages, you can see sometimes different frames. So the entire web page is divided into multiple sections. So basically we can call them as a frames. And sometimes you may see one web page we can display on another web page. So, okay, just look at here. I'll just show you a simple example. You can just go to testautomationpractice.blogspot.com. So here, this is actual one web page, right? So inside the web page, I have displayed one form here. So this is actually comes from the different website, form site. Okay, I have just created this form in some another web page, and from there, I have just embedded into another web page. So that means the whole web application is also contains another page here. This is actually third-party page. I have created this page, volunteer sign-up form, inside the form site. If I just go to this form site here, you can see my page. So this is a third-party application. Here I created the form, but to display the form in my blog, I have embedded here. So this is a kind of a form, or this kind of an iframe, and all these elements are present inside the iframe. Okay, so the frame iframe. So sometimes the entire web page will be split into multiple frames. We can call them as iframes. So either frame or iframe, both are almost the same. But the small difference is when you're working with the Windows applications, we can use a terminology like a frame. But when you're working with the web applications, so normally we call them as iframes. That's the only difference. Okay. Now we'll see how to work with the different frames. So, but why we need to work with the frames here? The reason is if there are any elements which are present inside the frame, we cannot directly interact with them. We cannot directly do any variations on those elements because those elements are present inside the frame. And what is that frame? That is again customized code, or which is displayed from other third-party web page. So if you want to interact with the elements which are present inside the frame or iframe, we need to switch to the particular frame, and then we will able to interact with those elements. I'll show you an example, then you will able to understand. So let's go to one web page. Okay, so this is my web page. Now, if I just look at here, I have 3 different frames available in this page. So this is one frame actually. So you can see this is one frame, and this is another frame, and this third one, this is another frame. So there are totally how many frames are there? Totally first frame, second frame, and the third frame. And this is all one web application, one web page. So web page contains 3 different sections. The first section, packages, all packages are there. In the second section, all classes are there. In the third section, there are multiple links along with the information is there. So the total page is divided into 3 different sections, and each section is a frame here. Each section is a frame. So this is one frame, and this is another frame, and this is another frame. But still internally, these frames are internally connected. So how it is connected? For example, in the packages frame, I'm clicking on the first link. Then obviously what happened? The corresponding classes and packages will be displayed on the second frame here. And suppose when you click on something here, when I click on the Webdriver link, and it will show you the corresponding details on the third frame. Okay. So even though these frames are different and 3 different sections, but internally they are integrated. Okay. So now let us see how we can perform the operations on the frame. So my requirement here is I want to click on the first link on the packages frame, and then I want to click on the Webdriver from the second frame, and then I want to click on the help menu in the third frame. This is my requirement. Okay. So when you do these activities, we cannot directly do it because there are 3 elements we need to interact. First element is this one, the link in the package. Second element is a Webdriver, which is there in the second frame. The third element is help menu, which is there inside the third frame. So these 3 elements are present in 3 different frames. So we cannot directly go and interact with those elements. Okay, so before interacting with those elements, we need to switch to that particular frame and do the action, and then go to the next frame and do the action. Then we need to switch to the third frame, and then we need to do action. So that's how things work. So, okay, we cannot directly interact with those elements. So now I'll show you how we can switch to one frame to another frame. So that's the most important. Okay, but before switching, I'll show you how we can do that directly, and we will see the error. What is an error we will get? Because while reading the error, we will understand something, and then slowly we'll rectify the code, and then we will modify it, and we will again rerun this. So let's go to step by step. So let's create another example. New Python file, handle frames. And there are multiple commands are there. Listen this carefully. So handle frames. So here I will just try to copy this code, and here I'm launching your application and maximizing this. Okay. Now observe this. As soon as you open this page, where our driver is focused currently, the driver is focused the whole page, the complete page, right? Now I want to interact with the first element, org.openqr.selenium. So let's inspect that element, and basically which is a link, right? So this is basically a link. So let me copy this link text and use that link text to interact with the first element. Go back, say driver dot find element by dot link text, by dot link text, and in the double quotation specify the link text and a dot click action and performing. This is the first link. Now after that, the second frame, I want to click on the Webdriver. I want to click on the Webdriver. So let's inspect this Webdriver also. This is also where it is present. It is present inside the span actually, but again, the span is present inside the anchor tag. So now we can directly create the link text. Okay. Now let's go and driver dot find element. Span is just like a label. Okay, you don't need to consider the span actually. So this is a part of the anchor tag. So if I write the anchor tag directly, it will go and interact with this Webdriver. Fine. So driver dot find element by dot, again I'm taking link text, and here Webdriver. So let's copy this Webdriver. Okay, so now two links are there. So in the first frame, this is available. Second frame, this is the element available. Now go to the third frame. So in the third frame, I want to click on the help menu. So inspect this help. And if I just go back and see the selector hub, and which is given relative XPath. So this is the XPath which is given. So let's copy this XPath and check whether it's working fine or not. Zero element is matching. So why zero element is matching? Because even selector hub also cannot recognize the elements if they are in the frame. Remember guys, selector hub also cannot recognize the element, even though that XPath is generated, even though the XPath is correct, but still it cannot identify the element if it is there inside the frame. So because still we can use it, or what we can do is you can just right click on this element. If you are not believing on selector hub, you can just go to this HTML, copy XPath here. Anything is fine. And now driver dot find element. Okay, just a moment. Okay, so driver dot find element by dot XPath and specify that XPath. Okay, dot click. So this is given absolute XPath by default, no problem, we can just have it. So now three elements I have interacted with from three different frames. Okay, so as per our expectation, it should do it, but it will not do it because these three elements are present inside the frame. So we cannot directly interact with them. Now let us run this and see what is an error we will get. Okay, what is an error we will get, and based on that we will try to understand something. Let's run it. Okay, launch my page and maximized it, but after that it is not perform any action. Now go back and read the error. So read the error. So what it is basically saying is this one, link text is not working here. So the first link itself, it is not working. org.openqr.selenium is not working. It is giving error. So it's clearly saying no such element, unable to locate element. What is that element? org.openqr.selenium is not able to locate. So why it is not able to locate that link? Because that link is present inside the first frame. So this particular link is present inside the first frame. So to perform any activity on this link or to perform any action on this link, we have to switch it to the particular frame. We have to switch it to the particular frame. So how we can switch it? Before doing an action on this frame, we have to write one command, driver dot switch to dot frame. This is a command. Okay. And this is a command which is introduced in Selenium 4, guys. So here we have to specify something called, either we can specify the name of the frame, or we can specify the ID of the frame, or we can pass a frame as a web element. So there are multiple options are available here. Okay, I'll tell you. So when I use this command, there are 3 different flavors are there to switch to the frame. Particular frame, if you want to switch to dot frame, here we can pass the name of the frame. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if ID is available, directly we can pass the ID of the frame. Or if the name or ID is not available for that frame, then we can identify that frame as a web element, because the frame itself is a web element, and that web element we can pass. Or if we have only one single frame on your web page, then you can directly pass the index of the frame as a 0. So there are 4 different flavors we have. And apart from these are all Selenium 4 syntaxes. But in Selenium 3, there is one more method called driver dot and driver dot switch dot to underscore frame. So this is a command which is available in Selenium 3, guys. In Selenium 3. So somewhere else, if you see this syntax, don't confuse. Okay. Driver dot switch dot frame. So this is exactly the same as this one. So this will work exactly the same as this one. But in Selenium 4, slightly they have changed. So previously, switch underscore to underscore frame, and these parameters we can pass inside the bracket directly. But in Selenium 4, they have slightly modified this method like this. So switch underscore to, but instead of underscore frame, they say dot frame. Okay, that's a slight change that they have done. So these are all Selenium 4 syntaxes. Selenium 4 syntaxes. Okay. So again, 4 flavors of methods we have. Either we can pass the name of the frame directly in the double quotation, or we can pass the ID of the frame directly in the double quotation. If name or ID is not available for the frame, then we can identify that frame as a web element, and then we can pass it. Or sometimes you may have multiple frames. In those cases, don't go for index, because index we cannot see anywhere. So if you have only one frame on your web page, so by default you can assign index as a 0. Okay. So these are the 4 different flavors we have in switch.frame. So for now, let us see the frame name is available or not. Accordingly, we will follow. In the upcoming examples, I will also show you ID, web element, and so on. Let us start with the first flavor. So go back to the web page and now observe carefully. Let me just copy this URL once again. So first of all, we need to check that particular frame is having name or not. But what is the tag name we can see in the HTML for the frames? So sometimes you can see just a frame tag. Okay. Or sometimes you can see iframe, and sometimes you can see form. Okay. So all 3 are correct. So whenever you see this kind of tag in your HTML, that is representing the frame. Okay. Now, if I just go to this and check what are the tag names which are displayed for this particular frames. So let's inspect, go to the HTML code and see. So this is the whole HTML, right? So now let us see and what are the frames are available. And basically it is giving iframe tag. You can just look at here. As soon as you place my cursor on the iframe, it is exactly pointing to the first frame. See this? Iframe. So iframe is a tag name. So for that, name is available. What's the name is here? Package list frame. Okay. And what about the second one? If I just come down or try to inspect the second one, and you can see one more frame inside the body. Or if you are not able to find, you can just Control F. Okay. Control F, type iframe. So now it will show you the first iframe. It will highlight with yellow color. So all iframes will be highlighted with the yellow color. This is one iframe. Enter. Now it is another iframe. Second one. You can just put the cursor here. it is highlighting the second box or second iframe. And for this also there is a name available, package frame. Now again press enter. So now it is highlighting the third frame. And this is basically highlighting the third frame, which is also iframe is a tag and which is also having name here. So if the name is available directly, we can directly specify that name inside the method. Even we don't need to use any locator, even find element, nothing is required. In the double quotations, directly we can specify the name value. And if the ID is also, ID value also we can directly specify in the double quotations. Okay. So currently name is available. So let me just note down those names. For the first frame, package list frame is a name. Okay, there's a name, first frame. And now iframe, and the second one is this one, second frame. The name of the second frame is a package frame. And then again search for it. Now the name of the third frame is class frame. So now I captured the names of all three frames, right? Now by using these names, we should be able to switch to one frame to another frame. So how to switch it? Go back. So before performing this action in the first frame, we use this command, driver dot switch to dot frame, and which frame you want to switch it, first frame. So specify the name here directly. Now what this command will do, this particular command will switch to the first frame and then perform this action. And same thing we have to repeat for the rest of the two commands. So before doing this action, we have to switch to the second frame. Now copy the same command again here and specify the second frame name. What is the second frame name? Package frame. Specify it. And then perform the action. And similarly, third frame. So before doing this action in the third frame, we have to switch to the third frame. Now copy the same command. Here specify the name of the third frame. This is the name of the third frame. Right? So perfectly fine. So first we switch it to the first frame, then perform the action. Then switch it to the second frame and then perform the action. Then switch it to the third frame and perform the action. Right? Let's execute now. Right click and run. So just notice what will happen. So it is launching my web page. Yes. Now it is successfully click on the first link on the first frame, but it is not clicked on the second frame and third frame links. If I just go back and see the error, what is an error it is giving is, this one is giving an error. Driver dot switch to dot frame package frame. Package frame. What it is saying? No such frame exception. Which frame? Package frame. It is basically saying there is no such frame on the web page. It is clearly saying there is no such type of frame in the web page. What is that frame? Package frame. But it is not giving any error related to the first one because it is successfully switched to the first frame and perform the action. But when you try to switch to the second frame and it is giving this kind of frame is not available on the web page. But why it is giving? Because we successfully switched to the second frame also, right? But why it is giving an error here? So there is a still problem is there. So what is the problem? So normally what happens is you have this web page. This is the actual our page, right? So this is a one frame and this is another frame and this is a third frame we have. So currently what we have done, our driver is currently focused on the main page. As soon as you launch your application, our driver is focused on the main page. So as soon as you switch it to the first frame, now our driver is pointing to the first frame. Now our driver is enter into the first frame and here perform the action. Now action is successfully done in the first frame. Now our driver is focused on first frame. Now after that, what we are doing? We are directly trying to switch to the second frame. So our driver is directly there inside this first frame. Now our driver is focused on the first frame after switching to the first frame. Now from there, we are trying to directly focus on the second frame. And from there, again, we are directly focused on the third frame. So this is not the right way to do this because the driver directly cannot switch to one frame to another frame. Immediately it cannot switch. But what is the solution for that? So the solution is we have this frame. This is another frame and this is a third frame. Our driver first focus on the first frame. So now currently our driver is here. And after performing the action, again, we need to go back to our one page. We have to go back to the main page. And again, switch to the second frame, do the action, and again go back to the main page, and then try to switch to the third page and perform the action. So this is how we need to do, because driver cannot directly switch to one frame to another frame. So once your job is done in the first frame, our driver again should go back and focus on the main page, and then go to the second window, second frame, and do the action. Then again go back to the main page, and then switch to the third frame and perform the action. So this is how we need to do. But here the question: if you want to switch to the page, a particular frame, we use switch command. So driver.switch.frame command we used, and there we specified the name of the frame, and it is successfully switched and performed the action. But once the driver is here, how come we go back to the main page again, right? So to do this, we have one more command is available. What is that? Default content. Okay, so default content is a command which is available. So as soon as you enter in the first page, perform the action, immediately I will go back to the main page. How to go back to the main page? Driver dot switch to dot default content. Switch to dot default content. So what this command will do? This will go back to main page. Go back to main page. Remember this, very, very important. Driver dot switch to dot default content. So now our driver is focused on the main page. Now we will switch to the second page, second frame, and perform the action. After performing the action in the second frame, again we need to go back to the main page. So one more time you have to write this command, and then switch to the third frame and then perform the action. So after this, we don't need to do anything. So this is the last frame, so we can leave it here. Okay, so this is how we need to do. So let me just execute it now. See this. So finally, we need to get a help menu on the web page. See this? Yes. Now you can see successfully click on the first link in the first frame, Webdriver link in the second frame, help menu in the third frame. Now we got the help page in this particular frame. Okay, so this is how we need to switch to one frame to another frame. One frame to another frame. So what is the command? One is switch to underscore. So default content. If you go back to the main content or main page, so then we have to use this command. This is a one more additional command which is very much required. Clear, everyone? So this is an example. So how to switch between the multiple frames? I will show you one more example, then you will understand very clear. So here, this is one scenario. So here the page contains a multiple frames. So this one frame, this is another frame, this is another, 3 different iframes. So we are able to interact with the elements which are present inside the frames. So we cannot directly interact. So first we need to switch to that particular frame, and then we will able to interact with those elements. After interaction is completed, again we need to go back to the main page by using default content method. Okay, so this is how we need to work with the multiple frames, how to switch between the multiple frames. So these are the commands available. Now I'll show you one more example. Inner frame. So sometimes you can see a frame within another frame, and that frame contains elements. So then how we can handle inner frames? You can see sometimes. So what are the inner frame? Let me show you one more example. What is the inner frame? A frame contains another frame, which is basically called as an inner frame. Let me go back, open this application. Yeah, now you can just look at this. So this is single frame, okay, so which contains some box here. So let's go back to the second one. Now you can just look at this. So this is one frame, and inside this there is one more frame, and inside this there is a box. So this kind of frames are called inner frames. Now my requirement is I want to enter some text here. So to interact with this input box, first we need to switch to the outer frame, and from there again we need to switch to the inner frame, and then only we will able to access this internal element. So how many frames we need to switch? 2 frames. But this is a completely different scenario. So here we don't need to go with the default content. So the previously scenario is different and this time scenario is different. So previously what happens, the page is having 3 different frames. All 3 different frames are completely different, independent. So we have switched to the frame and again go back, again switch to the frame, again we go back, again switch to the frame, then we have performed action. So here default content is required because here there are multiple frames are there to navigate. But now the scenario is, this is a web page which contains a frame and this frame contains another frame. So now we switch to the outer iframe, and once you switch to the outer iframe, our driver is here. From there itself, we have to switch to the inner iframe, and then we find that element. So here we no need to go back to the page content again. Default content is not required because the inner frame is available within the frame itself. So after switching to the outer frame, again we no need to go back to the main page, not required. So first we need to go to outer iframe. From there we switch to inner iframe. So from there we will able to identify the element. So this is a completely different approach, and default content is not required in this particular scenario. Okay, now let me just go back and see there what are the attributes are available for this. So in the previous example, I've shown you how to use a name. If the name is available for that particular frame, we can directly pass the name inside the method, switch to dot frame, and which will automatically switch to the particular frame. But sometimes name will not be available or ID will not be available. In those cases, how we can get that particular frame? Now that also I will show you in this example. Listen carefully. So let's inspect this outer frame first of all. Okay, so let's try to, you have to identify this properly. So you don't do like this. Okay, this is off, it is identified. So we have to select the complete box like this. Now it is completely selected. Now we can just look at here, iframe tag is available. So iframe tag is available here, and you don't see ID or name for this. There are some other attributes are there, we cannot use them. Let's say src style, something is there. So iframe is the only tag which is available. I don't have any ID or I don't have any name. But how we can get this iframe? Because we need to pass something into the switch to frame. So here I told you multiple forms. So first method is working or not. So this won't work because name of the frame is not available. Second also won't work because ID of the frame is not available. So what is the third way? We have web element. So we have to identify that frame as a web element, and then we have to pass that web element inside the method. Now let us try to identify this outer frame as a web element. Simple. Right click on the iframe, get the XPath of this. Okay, or you can get it from the selector hub, no issues. Go back to the selector hub. Okay, so from here you can get it. So this is a outer iframe. Now capture this. Go back, and first of all, let's start writing the code. Okay, close this. I will create one more example. Inner iframe. Okay, so let me just copy this code. Okay, now I'm just copying this URL. Okay, now what I'll do is, so there are 2 frames are available, guys. So this is only one single frame, one input box. I will go this link and then you will see this one. Okay, so copy this URL and launch your application, then maximize it. So to get that frame page, first of all, we need to click on this button, right? So inspect the second button, and this is the one. So get the selector hub and get this locator for the second element and identify it. Driver dot find element by dot XPath. This is a button, not a frame. Okay, by dot XPath, comma, specify that XPath dot click. So this will go to the second one. So this will open. Now let us try to identify the outer iframe. Okay, so now identified, and this is the outer iframe, and this is the XPath which is generated. So copy this XPath and get that frame as a web element. Okay, so then we will pass it into the switch to command. So because we don't have ID or we don't have name for that frame, so driver dot find element by dot XPath, specify that XPath, and just get this. Let me just name it as a outer frame. outer frame. Okay, so now I capture the outer frame. So by using web element, I captured the outer frame. So now we need to switch to it. How to switch it? Driver dot switch to dot frame, and now we need to pass this outer iframe here. So what is this outer iframe? Web element. So now I identified the entire frame as a web element, store that in here, and that web element I'm passing. So now this time I'm using this flavor of switch to frame command, right? So now let's go back, and now we successfully switch to the first frame here. And from there, where our current driver is focused now, our driver is focused on the outer iframe. From there, we need to go to the inner iframe. Now go to the same page. This time, I'm just trying to identify the inner iframe. So inner iframe, we need to identify. So inspect this inner iframe. And at the time of identifying, don't do like this. Okay, now it is half selected. So we need to take the inspector help and we need to try to, this is a completely highlighted. Now click on it. See, iframe tag is there, and here also you don't see ID or name. So only thing is go to the selector hub, and you can see relative XPath is giving very larger one. So instead of doing this, you can just go and copy this, copy XPath. And now find out the inner iframe. So driver dot find element by dot XPath. So this is the XPath of the inner iframe. So this is inner frame. Sorry. This is inner frame. Okay, so here default content is not required because the inner frame is also available inside the outer iframe. So here our driver is focused on outer iframe. So from there, we navigated to the inner iframe. So currently our driver is there in the inner iframe. No, because we haven't switched to it yet, right? Just switch it to the only outer iframe. So we have captured that element here. That's it. We have just captured the inner frame element, but we have not passed into switch to command. So now we need to go and switch to it. Pass the inner frame. So here we switch it to outer iframe, and here we switch it to inner iframe, and then we will able to get that element. So inspect this element, and this is the element XPath. Copy this, and then specify here driver dot. There's a normal input box. So driver dot find element by dot XPath, and here I can pass the value by using send keys. I say welcome. So this is how we need to interact with the inner frame. So first we need to go to outer iframe. From there, go to inner iframe, and then identify the element. Okay, so let's execute and see, run as inner frames. Okay, now it is enter the welcome. Perfectly fine. Okay, so now you may have some question here. Suppose currently we are in inner frame, right? But from inner frame to again, I just go back to the outer iframe. So do we have any element in the outer iframe here? Do we have anything in the outer iframe? So we don't have anything in the outer iframe. So outer iframe, inside the outer iframe, we don't have anything except this inner frame, because whatever element we have interacted, which is already there inside the inner iframe, we have interacted. So if I just go back to the outer iframe from here to here, because currently our driver is here. So if I go back to the outer iframe, so anything use here, there is no use, because outer frame is also not having anything. But from here, we can go to the web page by using default content. We can directly go back to the page, but not directly to the frame. Okay, but we cannot directly go to the frame because this is a parent frame. But in Selenium 4, they have introduced one more command by which we can directly go to the parent frame. So from inner frame to parent frame, we can still navigate, because suppose if your outer frame is having some more element, some other element, if you want to do some action there, so then we can go to the parent element. So that is introduced only in Selenium 4. So what is that command? Switch to parent. Direct command is available. So let me just write that command. Driver dot switch to dot parent frame. This is a command. So you don't need to pass anything into this. Directly it will go to the parent frame. Okay, so directly, because there is only one parent frame, right? So for inner iframe, there is only one parent. So we will not have multiple parents. We always have one parent for inner frame. So it will directly switch to parent frame. So what is a parent frame here? Parent frame in the sense outer iframe. Okay, because in outer iframe we don't have anything, so we no need to switch to the outer iframe actually. But this is a command which is provided by Selenium Webdriver. In case suppose in outer iframe also we have few more elements, and if you want to switch to inner frame to outer iframe immediately parent frame, so then you can use this command switch to dot parent frame. Okay, so these are the different switching commands are available to switch between one frame to another frame, one frame to another frame. So far we have seen how to switch between the alerts, how to switch between the frames. Now the third one is how to switch between the browser windows. Okay, so browser windows, how to switch between the browser windows. Another important concept, listen carefully. How to switch between the browser windows. So what is browser window? So in the previous sessions, I've discussed one thing, browser window. At the time of explaining close and quit commands, I explained this concept also. So let me just recap what we have discussed there. Okay, let me just open that application. And I told you a few important points also at that time. Let me just recap and then we will discuss browser windows. Let me open this web page. So as soon as you open the URL on the browser, so our driver is focused only on this particular browser window. So this is one browser window. Okay. Suppose when you click on this link, for example, the bottom link, I'm just clicking it. Immediately what happens? That link is open another browser window. So now this is one browser window. This is another browser window. But where is our driver is focused? Our driver is still focused on the parent window. We can call it as a parent. We can call it as a child window. For now, we can just call it as a parent. The main page, which is launched in the before, so which we can call it as a parent window, parent browser window. The second one is a child window we can call. Now, our driver is still focused on the parent window, right? And if we want to perform any action or any operations or any activity in the second page or a child window, child browser window, it cannot directly possible because driver is still focused on the main page. But still, I want to perform some actions on the second page or second browser window. Then we have to switch it. Then we have to switch to our driver should switch to one browser window to another browser window. And then we can perform the action. So here switching commands will come into picture. And one more thing I told you. So if I have two browser windows, when I use close command, which will close only one browser window at a time, whichever the driver is focused on. But when I use quit command, which will close all the browser windows at a time. But suppose I have multiple browser windows like this. I want to close based upon my choice, like say first and second, or second and third, or third and fourth, or first and fifth. Based upon my choice, I want to close specific browser windows. How we can close it? That time I told you, this is one of the most important interview question. Close and quit, everybody will answer. So close command will close single browser window. Quit command will close all browser windows. But how to close a specific browser window based upon our choice? So that also we will see in this concept, because that is again related to this concept. Okay. So first let us see how to work with the browser windows, how to switch between one browser window to another browser window. That's a main important concept. So to switch to one browser window to another browser window, direct command is available. So that is switch to window command is available. But what is the input it is required? Switch to window command is there, no problem. So when you're working with alerts or frames, we are passing some parameter, right? So driver dot switch to dot alert, because at a time we can see only one alert which will switch it. But at the time of frames also, we specify the either name of the frame or ID of the frame or frame as a web element, something we specified, so that that particular command is successfully switched to that particular frame based on the name or ID we provided. Similarly, switch to window command is also there. But what is the input we have to pass in it? Okay, so there is a command is available. What is that command? Driver dot switch to window command is available. And this command we will able to access using driver object. But this also needs some input. And whichever input we passed or that window will be switched. But what is that input? Window ID. Window ID we have to pass. Browser window ID, not a window ID means it's a browser window ID. What is browser window ID? So far we have not seen this. So this we cannot find in HTML. But what is window ID? That we need to understand. So if you want to switch to one browser window to another browser window, we use this command. But when I use this command, we have to pass the window ID, then only this command will switch to that particular window, browser window. But how we will know the window ID of the browser window? Suppose I have two browsers are open here, where I can see the window ID of the first browser window, where I can see the window ID of the second browser window. That's the first question. So window IDs, we cannot see in HTML. That's the first point. Second point, window IDs will automatically generate whenever you open the browser window. So that's the reason the window IDs are dynamic. Window IDs are dynamic because at the time of launching your browser, at the time of launching your application, your browser will automatically create an ID for that particular browser window. Suppose HRM page is already open. So this is already having one ID, browser window ID. Similarly, as soon as you open the second page, this is also having some browser window ID. And those IDs will automatically generated by the browser itself. And every time you will not see the same ID. Suppose now I have opened this website. After a few seconds, again open the same URL, another tab, the window ID will be the different. That is not depend on application. The randomly it will generate. But where we can get it, where we can see that? We cannot see anywhere. We cannot see that window ID anywhere. Even in HTML, anywhere we cannot see that. But we need that window ID. Until unless we know the window ID, we cannot switch to one browser window to another browser window. But that window ID is not available in HTML. We cannot see in our web page. We cannot see it anywhere else. But how we can get that window ID? So to get that window ID, we have command called current window handle. Okay, current window handle. That is actually a command. We can access that through driver instance. So current underscore window handle. This command will return window ID of, or it will return window ID of single browser window. Remember this very carefully. Listen this. Current window handle is a command which will give you window ID of single browser window at a time. But I have multiple browser windows like this. I want to get the window IDs of every browser window. Then we have to use one more command called, again, driver dot window underscore handles. This is the command. Sorry, window underscore handles. This will return. So this will return window IDs of multiple browser windows. Very important. So before switching to if you want to switch to one browser window to another browser window, we have to use this command. But if you want to use this command, we have to specify the window ID. Which browser window you want to switch, that you need to specify. But how we will know the window ID? If you have a single browser window, we use this command. If you have a multiple browser windows, we use this command, and then we will get the window IDs. Once you get the window IDs, then we can pass that ID into this command, and whichever browser window you want to switch, you can switch it. Okay, so these are the commands. Now let us see practically. First, we'll focus on these two areas. Okay, how to get the window ID of single browser. Then I'll show you how to get the window IDs of multiple browsers. And I told you a few important points. Those window IDs are dynamically generated. So every time they will not be the same. So we will run multiple times and check whether the window IDs are same or not. Okay, it is basically generating as a string format. Okay, now let me just focus on these two first. Once you understand these two commands, and then I'll show you how to switch to one browser window to another browser window. Now go back to the PyCharm and new and create a Python file. handle browser windows. Listen carefully, very important concept. All right, so here I'm just copying this code till here. Right, so specify this main application URL. So this is the application URL I'm just trying to launch, and then maximize window. Fine. So as I just currently open only one browser window, right? So I want to get the window ID or browser window ID of this particular page or browser window. So how we can do that? Driver dot, what is the command? Current window handle, that's it. And which will store some variable. If you want to store, I say window ID. I can create window ID and then I can print it. So print window ID. Now observe this carefully. So after that, I will close my browser also. I'll say driver.close. Now we'll see what is the window ID which is written for this single web page. So let's run and see. Okay, now we can just look at this. This is a window ID which is generative. Now let me just put it here. Okay, this is the window ID first time. Now again, second time I'll try to launch the same application, and this time we will see what is the window ID which will be created. Let's execute one more time. Yes, now this time it is generated this kind of window ID. Now just compare this. Are they equal or not? Not equal. They are not equal. That means what we understood, every time when you open this application on the browser, the new window ID will be created by the browser. Randomly it is created. It's not always same. Okay. And this is randomly created. Every time you will get a new value. So with this, we have understood how to get the window ID of the single browser window. Currently I have opened only one browser window. I get the window ID. I'm just showing you here. Now I'll comment this. Now, after launching this browser window maximized, I click on this link here, and then it will open another browser window, right? So let's inspect this link. And this is the link text I'm using. And this time I'll try to click on the bottom link. I say driver dot find element by dot link text. And here I'll pass the link text dot click. So I'm just clicking on the link. As soon as you click on the link, what happens? This time opens another browser window. So now currently how many browser windows I have? 2 browser windows I have. Now I want to get the window IDs, browser window IDs of both the browser windows. I want to get the window ID of the first browser window. Also, I want to get the window ID of the second browser window. So how we can get it? Driver dot window underscore handles. Window underscore handles. So this will give you window IDs of both the browser windows. Now you need to tell this point. Will it return one single browser window ID or multiple browser window IDs? I say window underscore handles, right? Earlier it is returning only one single browser window ID. But this time this command will return multiple browser window IDs. Multiple, I'm saying multiple means what? It is basically a list, right? Basically a list. So now I will create one variable here. I will name it as a window IDs. Window IDs. Okay, let me just give name like this. Okay, window IDs. Now, what kind of variable it should be? Window IDs. This should be list type of variable. It should be list type of variable because it is returning 2 string values. So those 2 string values are stored inside the list variable. Now I want to see window ID of the first browser window and window ID of the second browser window. I want to see them. How we can access them from this list variable? How we can access them from this list variable? Simply can say window IDs of 1. Index will start from 0, right? I say 0. And this will give you window ID of the first browser window. I'll call it as a parent window ID. Parent window ID. From that list, I capture the parent window ID, the first one. Now this is also contains a window ID of the second browser window. I call it as a child. So now I'll put another statement. I say 1, first index. So here we have a child window ID. I said child window ID. So now I captured the parent window ID and child window ID from this list variable. Now let us print and see. So I say print parent window ID. I'm printing first, comma, child window ID. Okay, so now let's see. And we captured window IDs of multiple browser windows. So first one is already closed. Okay, let me, because close command we use right at the end of the script, that's the reason. Okay, let me close this also. So now you can just look at this. So this is the window ID of the first one, this one. And this is the window ID of the child window ID of the child window. So now we are able to capture them. So we capture all the window IDs into the variable. From that, we are able to extract the window ID of the parent window ID of the child window. So now we know both. So we know parent window ID, child window ID. So now which browser window you want to switch? Instead of printing it, I want to switch particular browser window. Suppose I want to switch the second browser window. So let's remove the close command. Okay, I want to switch currently parent window only there, right? So as soon as you launch your application, currently our driver is focused by default on parent window only. But from there, I want to switch to the child window. How we can switch to the child window now? To switch to the child window, how we can switch it? Driver dot switch to dot window. Because we know the window IDs now, right? So we know window IDs of the parent window ID of the child window. So which window ID we want to switch? Which window, browser window you want to switch? Child browser window I want to switch. So just pass this ID here. Okay, now which will go and switch to the child window, As soon as it switch to the child window and try to get the title of the page, driver dot title. Perfectly fine. This should return the title of the child browser window. But after that, again, I want to go back to the parent browser window. I want to switch to the parent browser window. So then what I can do? I can just go back to the switch to window and this time pass the parent window ID and again capture the title of the page. But why I'm getting the title of the page here? Because you will know exactly which browser window our driver is switched to. Okay, because titles will be different, right? So currently I'm switching to the child browser window, getting the title. And after that, I switch to the parent window and then getting the title. So by seeing the titles, we will know whether it is properly switched or not. That's my intention here. Okay. So now let us print something also here. I can say title of the child window, comma. Okay. So here title of the parent window. All right. So let's execute and see. So these IDs will not be the same every time. So whatever ID we will get here, we will passing here dynamically. So we no need to do anything with these exact values because they are dynamic every time. Let's execute now. And you notice something called it is successfully switching to one browser window to another browser window so that it will give you the titles of both the browser windows. Okay, I have not used close command, so both the browser windows are still open. Now go back and see here. So the title of the child browser window is this one. And title of the parent window is this one. If you're not switched successfully, it cannot get the titles. Okay, this will always give the same title because it will not switch. But here it is successfully switched to one browser window to another browser window so that we got the different IDs, so different titles of the pages. All right. So this is how we can just switch to one browser window to another browser window by passing window ID into switch to window command. But how we will know the window IDs? Just use driver.window_handles command. This will return all Windows IDs which are currently open. And from them, you can extract the window IDs. And then you can use that whichever window ID you want to use. You can just pass that window ID and then it will switch it and it will get the titles. So this is a way we can do that. But there is one more way also there. So instead of capturing the window IDs in multiple, suppose you have a 10 browser windows. Here I have only 2 browser windows, you are able to do that. But you have a 10 browser windows, it is very difficult to create 10 variables, right? Which one is a parent, which one is child? There are so many parents, so many childs are there. It's very difficult to manage if you have more number of browser windows. But in those cases, what you will do is, instead of going with this approach, we will use a looping approach. Loop we have to write. So it is just approach 1. If you have just 1 or 2 browser windows or 2-3 browser windows, you can do that. In this approach is fine. You can get all the Windows IDs into variable and extract them by using index number and give some name to a window ID. I can pass it, I can switch it. But if you have multiple browser windows, like 5 or 10 browser windows, it is not recommended. So just go with the looping statement. Let me just show you the second approach. Approach 2, second approach, simple. We have to just write one for loop. We already capture the window IDs, right? So take one win ID, okay, win ID in Windows IDs. So what you will do now, from the Windows IDs, first window ID will be stored in the window ID. So here what I will do is I will directly switch it. I say driver dot switch to dot window, and here I'm passing this window ID directly. So this command will switch to that particular window ID, and then I will print the title. So I'll say driver dot title and say print. Same thing what I have achieved above, same thing we can achieve with this loop. So what this will do is basically, which will get the first window ID in this variable, then switch to it, then get the title. Second round of execution, get another window ID into the variable, switch to that particular browser window, get the title. So let's execute and see now. Okay, just a moment. Let me close all the pages. Okay, so let's execute one more time. I think I have not used close command. Yeah. So it is launching my actual web page. Now it is also clicking on the bottom link, and now we got the 2 different pages. So now we should get the 2 different pages titles. Now we can just go back and see here. Yeah. So this is a title of the main page, parent page, and this is a title of the child page. So that means we will able to successfully switch to one browser window to another web browser window, because we are getting the proper titles here. So this is how we can do that. So again, if you want to perform any action on the particular page, you can just put one condition. If the diverter title equal to so and so, and then close it or not. So that's the next further thing we can do it. Okay, so here we are already switching to the browser window, and then we are getting the title here. You have to remember this. Okay, so we are just showing the title here. I'm just showing the title because we have to know whether it's switched or not, right? If I don't put the title here, what is the use of this loop? It will just switch to one browser window to another browser window, no problem. Even if you have 10 browser windows are open, all 10 browser windows will be switched with this command. But how we will know whether it is switched or not? If you print the title of each and every browser window, then you will know that. So that's the reason after switching, I'm printing the title here. After printing the title, you don't do anything here. Okay, after you are not switching to the browser window based on the title. Okay, based on the title, you cannot. Only by window ID, you can switch it. That is the concept you need to understand here. Okay, based on only window ID, we can switch it. So that's the reason first we have switched it, and then we capture the title. I'll tell you one more example here. This is an extension of this. So with this loop, what we have understood, we have successfully switched to one browser window to another browser window, so that we are getting the different titles. Perfectly fine. Now my requirement is, I have multiple browser windows. I want to close specific browser windows based upon my choice. Okay, so I want to close. Let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Four browser windows are open. I want to close 1 and 2, or I want to close 2 and 3, or I want to close 3 and 4. I want to close 1 and 4. So based on my choice, I want to close specific browser windows. and how we can achieve this. So let me just tell you simple. To achieve this, just use the same loop here. Okay, and here anyway we are getting window IDs of all browser windows. Even if you have 10 browser windows, no matter, you will get all Windows IDs in this variable, right? Let us assume you have a 10 browser windows. All 10 browser window IDs are available inside the window IDs. Now in this loop, what you are doing, you are reading each and every window ID into this variable, right? And then we are switching to that particular window ID. Then what you will do after switching it, get the title of the page. So if driver.title, so whichever browser window you want to close, that particular browser window title you have to specify. So for example, so this is a browser window, parent and child, right? So I want to close my parent browser window. So what is the title of the parent browser window? You can just look at here in the header section, you can find the title. So that I will specify. So if driver.title equal to orange HRM, okay, so then what I will do, I'll say driver.close. I'll say driver.close. Listen this carefully. Your doubts will be clarified in this example. Driver.close. What I have done exactly here is, currently I have two browser windows, 1 and 2, parent and child. So I want to close only parent. Still, I want to have child window. So then how it is happened? First of all, I capture the window IDs one by one here. And I switch to that particular window, browser window. And immediately I'm capturing the title and checking the title equal to this one, then close it. So now what happens? Only the parent browser window will be closed, but still other windows will be open. Let us test this running as application. Now you can just look at this carefully. This is it's already open and closed also. So yeah, it is opening now. So this parent window, this is a child window. So currently two browser windows are open and parent window automatically should close. That's our expectation. It's not closed. Let me just run one more time because you already opened multiple times. Okay, so let me execute one more time. So I'm getting the window ID into this, switching to that particular window ID and driver.title equal to this one, and then close the browser. So that's my condition. So close is bracket should be there. Let's execute now one more time. So this is the most important scenario. Listen this carefully. So this is the actual. Now it is, you can see parent browser window is already closed. See this child window is open. If you want to clearly see this, I'll put one wait time here. So you can say time.sleep. 3 seconds I can keep it here. Okay, then you will understand. See this. One more time I'm running. So parent window browser I want to close intentionally. So this is a parent window browser which is open. Now child browser window also open. Now currently 3 browser windows are open. Now parent window is already closed. So only the child page window is still open. Now my requirement is I want to close child browser window, but still I want to open parent browser window. Then what we should do? So for that, we need to just change the title here. For that, we need to change the title. So let me change the title of the second browser window. Now the title of the second browser window is this one. Okay. Now based on the title, we will close that particular browser window. So parent window still alive. Only the child browser window will be closed because this condition will match. Execute one more time. Now you can just look at here, parent window and child window are open. And after that, parent window and this is a child window. So child window I have to close. Yeah, now child window is closed, still parent window is alive. So currently we have only 2 browser windows. We are able to do this. Suppose if we have more number of browser windows and I want to close like randomly few browser windows, then capture the titles of them before itself and whichever browser window you want to close and specify the titles like this. Suppose I want to close one more browser window, then you can put one more condition and again driver.title. Okay, driver.title equal to some other page title. Suppose let's say XYZ like this, because you can put any number of conditions like this, right? You can just put any number of conditions. Driver.title equal to this one, or operator we have to use, or driver.title equal to some other value. So double equal to. So you can put any number of titles like this. If you have randomly close multiple browser windows, you can just capture the titles of those browser windows, whichever you want to close, and specify the titles here. And as soon as the title conditions are matched, only those browser windows will be closed and rest of them still open. So with this loop, we will achieve it. So based upon our choice, if you want to close specific browser windows, this is a logic which we have to write. Okay, most important, please remember this. Close command will close only single browser at a time. Quit command will close all the browser windows at a time. But if you want to close specific browser windows based on our choice, this is the logic we have to write. First, we need to capture all window IDs, then read each and every window ID, switch to that window ID, browser window. Then based on the titles, you can close specific browser windows. So this is a simple logic which we need to write to close specific browser windows. So this is the concept of switching between the browsers. Close specific browser window. So this is a logic. Okay. So this is all about switching between the browser windows. So what are all commands we used? Switch to window, which needs a window ID. So to get the window ID, we can use this command. So first command, most of the times we don't use. And only the second command, window_handles command, most of the times we use. Okay, so this is all about switching commands, how to switch between the alerts, how to switch between the frames, and how to switch between the browser windows. All are switching commands, which are provided by Selenium WebDriver. Okay, so that's all for today's session. I'm just stopping here. So based on this, I'll give you one assignment so you guys can try this. So based on today's topic, just go to test automation practice blogspot.com on this particular web page. Okay, so you can see something here. You can see something called, here you can see alert window. So when I click on click me, you will get one alert window. You can just close this alert window by using OK and cancel. You can try this alert window. And the other thing is you can just try this one, new windows. So first thing what you need to do is you need to type something, let's say Selenium, and click on the search button, and then you will see some results here. And what you need to do is you need to capture these results by writing proper XPath. You have to capture all these results as a link text, and then click on each and every link. Click on the first one, and then click on the second one, and then click on the third one, fourth one, and fifth one, like this. So now you open multiple browser windows. That's the first activity you have to do. So first capture all these elements by writing proper XPath, and then read each and every link and perform the click action. So that will open multiple browser windows like this. That's the first thing you have to complete. Second thing is, as soon as you open multiple browser windows, capture the window IDs of every browser windows. Totally how many are there? Totally 5 are there. Capture the window IDs of every browser window, and based on the window ID, switch to each and every browser window and capture the titles of the each and every browser window and print those titles. And once you print all the titles, and finally close all browser window at one shot. Okay, so this is the assignment, which includes multiple things, but you have to try your own. Okay, so multiple things. First thing, we have to capture all these links. First, you need to provide some value. Click on the search button. Then you will see some suggestions here, and then capture them, all the links. And by using for loop, you have to read individual link and perform the click action. Then you will be able to see multiple browser windows. And after getting multiple browser windows, then get all window IDs, and by using those window IDs, switch to each and every browser window, capture the titles and print those titles in the console window. After completion of the jobs, close all Windows IDs at one shot by using quit command. That is a one assignment you guys can try today based on today's example. And switch between the commands. Switching commands you have to use for this. Okay, so let's try this. And if you want to try this voluntary sign-up form, this is actually form, but here we don't find any ID or name or XPath. Just use index number. Simply say driver.switch.frame 0, and then automatically your driver will focus on this voluntary sign-up form. You can pass the values in it. Okay. So this is assignment you guys can try today, and rest of the things we will discuss tomorrow session.